The first thing I said to my pregnant sister when she showed up on my doorstep wasn't, "Hello." It wasn't, "What are you doing here?" or even a "Get the hell off my property." It was, "Does it have his eyes?" She was standing there, shivering, even though it wasn't that cold. The porch light made the cheap fabric of her maternity top look even sadder. Her belly was huge, a perfect, round basketball under her shirt, a testament to the single biggest betrayal of my entire life. Her own eyes, the same blue as mine, were filled with tears, her face puffy and pale. She looked pathetic. And honestly, I didn't feel a single damn thing. No pity, no anger, not anymore. Just nothing. A vast, quiet, empty space where a family used to be. She opened her mouth, probably to spin some sob story about how she had nowhere else to go, about how he'd kicked her out. But I just held up a hand, cutting her off before she could even start. "Let me guess," I said, my voice as calm and flat as a frozen lake. He finally realized he'd traded a diamond for a rhinestone. And now the rhinestone is about to cost him 18 years of child support. She flinched, a raw, ugly sob catching in her throat. "Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a long story, how we got here. It's messy and it's ugly. But let me tell you, it all started on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Or, well, the lead up to it. Let's rewind about a year. Picture this. Me, Clara, 28 years old. I had a decent job in graphic design, a cute little apartment I'd furnished myself with way too many plants, and a fiancé, Liam. Liam. God, just saying his name now feels like chewing on tinfoil. But back then, he was my world. We'd been together for 5 years. He was handsome, charming, the kind of guy who remembered your coffee order and actually listened when you talked about your day. We were that couple. The one our friends secretly hated because we were just so solid. We were planning our wedding, a beautiful, rustic chic thing in the fall. I had the dress, we had the venue, everything was falling into place. Then there was my sister, Jenna. She's 2 years younger than me. And to understand Jenna, you have to understand my mom. In my mom's eyes, I was the sensible, reliable daughter. The station wagon. Jenna, on the other hand, was the sports car. She was fiery, impulsive, always the center of attention. She could burn down the house and my mom would somehow find a way to complement the beautiful color of the flames. Me? I could get a promotion at work and my mom would say, "That's nice, dear." Now, did you hear Jenna got a new haircut? She looks just like a movie star. Jenna had a long history of being, for lack of a better word, a user. She'd borrow my clothes and I'd never see them again. She'd forget her wallet and I'd end up paying for everything. Little things. Annoying, but the kind of stuff you let slide for the sake of family peace. The first real crack in my perfect little world appeared about 6 months before the wedding. Liam started getting distant. He was working late more often, glued to his phone, a little jumpy. When I'd ask if everything was okay, he'd give me the classic lines, "Just stressed with work, babe," or "Big project coming up." I tried to believe him, I really did. But there was this nagging feeling in my gut, you know? The kind you tried to ignore because acknowledging it would mean your whole life is about to detonate. Around the same time, Jenna suddenly got super interested in the wedding. She was my maid of honor, a decision I was already starting to regret. She'd pop over unannounced, supposedly to help with planning, but she'd just criticize everything. The flowers were tacky. The food was boring. My dress made me look a little wide. It was all done with a sickly sweet smile. "I'm just being honest. I want you to have the perfect day," she'd say. The inciting incident, the real one, happened on a Tuesday. Liam had left his iPad on the coffee table. It wasn't locked. I know, you shouldn't snoop. But that little voice in my gut was screaming at this point. I opened his messages. And there it was. A long thread with Jenna. It started innocently enough, wedding stuff. But then it changed. "Jenna, asterisk can't sleep. Thinking about you, asterisk. Liam, asterisk you should be. After last night, I can't stop thinking about you either, asterisk. Jenna, asterisk you're bad, winky face. Don't you have a fiancé, asterisk. Liam, asterisk she's asleep. And she doesn't get me like you do, asterisk." I felt the air leave my lungs. It was like I'd been punched in the chest hard. The room started spinning. I was reading the words, but my brain just couldn't process them. She doesn't get me like you do. That line, it was a dagger. I scrolled up, and up, and up. It had been going on for months. Flirty texts, inside jokes, mentions of late-night talks, and grabbing a drink that I was never told about. When Liam got home, I confronted him. I wasn't even yelling. I was just broken. I held up the iPad, my hand shaking. He saw it, and the color drained from his face. And then he did what all cowards do. He lied. "Clara, it's not what it looks like," he said, his voice slick with fake sincerity. "We're just friends. She's your sister. We have a flirty relationship. It's a joke. You know how she is." I looked him dead in the eye. "She doesn't get me like you do? Is that a joke, Liam?" He backpedaled, of course. Said he was drunk when he sent it, that Jenna was just helping him deal with his pre-wedding jitters. It was a masterclass in gaslighting. He twisted it so that by the end, I was the one who felt crazy. I was the insecure, paranoid fiancé who didn't trust him. The worst part? I called my mom, sobbing, needing my mother. And what did she say? "Oh, honey, you're overreacting. You know how Liam and Jenna are? They're like two peas in a pod. Don't be so sensitive. You're going to push him away with this jealousy before you even get to the altar. Push him away." She told me I was going to push him away. I hung up the phone and felt this cold, chilling loneliness. I was completely on my own in this. But still, I let them convince me I was crazy. I wanted to believe the lie, you know? I wanted my perfect life back. So I apologized. I actually apologized to Liam for not trusting him. That was my first mistake. And things only got worse from there. The escalation was slow and painful, like death by 1,000 paper cuts. My bachelorette party was the next circle of hell. Jenna planned it. I wanted a quiet weekend at a spa. We ended up at a sleazy club in the city, the kind with sticky floors and music so loud you can feel your teeth rattle. It was her party, not mine. She wore a skin-tight white dress, yes, white, and got blackout drunk within an hour. The climax of the evening was her grabbing the DJ's microphone to give a toast. She slurred, "To my sister Clara. She's so nice." The crowd of strangers chuckled. "And to Liam. He's the best. I probably know him better than anyone. He's got, like, this really cute birthmark on his. A friend cut her off before she could finish." Then she raised her glass. "Clara's just so lucky he decided to, settle down. Real lucky." My friends were staring at me with a mixture of horror and pity. I just smiled, a brittle, fake smile I plastered on my face. Later, when I tried to talk to Jenna about it, she just laughed it off. "Oh my God, Clara, it was a joke. Can't you take a joke? Lighten up." My mom, naturally, took her side. "She was just drunk, Clara. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're going to ruin your own wedding with this attitude." This became the pattern. Jenna would do something awful. I would get upset. Liam and my mom would team up to tell me I was the one with the problem. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then came the incident with my wedding dress. It was my one big splurge. A beautiful, custom-made lace gown. 2 weeks before the wedding, I went to my mom's house, where it was being stored in a garment bag in the spare room. I just wanted to look at it. I opened the bag and I saw it. A huge, dark red stain near the hem. Wine. It looked like someone had spilled a glass of Cabernet all down the side. I just saw red. My blood was boiling. I knew. I knew instantly who had done it. I stormed into the living room where Jenna and my mom were watching TV. I held up the stained part of the dress. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaking with rage. Jenna's eyes went wide, but she recovered quickly. "Oh my God. What happened? Don't you dare play dumb with me, Jenna," I seethed. "You did this." "I would never," she gasped, clutching her chest like a silent film star. "Why would you accuse me of that?" And then my mom stepped in. "Clara, that is enough. How could you say that to your sister? It was probably an accident. Maybe the cat knocked something over." "The cat?" I screamed. The cat knocked over a sealed bottle of red wine, opened it, and poured it specifically on my wedding dress? Are you hearing yourself? "There's no need to be hysterical," my mom said, her voice icy. "We can take it to a cleaner. It's just a dress. It's just a dress." Those 4 words broke something inside me. It wasn't just a dress. It was the disrespect. It was the blatant, unapologetic cruelty. And it was my own mother, refusing to see it, choosing to protect the person who was actively trying to sabotage my happiness. That was when I started to wake up. But the final, soul-crushing blow was yet to come. The breaking point. You always read about these, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Mine wasn't a straw. It was an anvil. It was the day before the wedding. The rehearsal dinner had been tense, a masterclass in faking it. Liam was overly attentive, Jenna was eerily quiet, and my mom was buzzing around like everything was perfect. I felt like a ghost watching a play of my own life. I went home early, telling everyone I had a headache. The truth was, I just couldn't be in the same room with them anymore. I walked into our apartment. It was quiet. I figured Liam was still out with his groomsmen. I went to our bedroom to change, and that's when I heard it. A small sound. A giggle. Coming from behind our closed bedroom door. My heart stopped. It was a sound I knew as well as my own name. It was Jenna's laugh. For a second, I told myself I was crazy. Paranoid Clara again. She's probably just in there leaving a gift on the bed or something. But then I heard another sound. A man's voice, low and murmuring. Liam's voice. Time seemed to slow down. I put my hand on the doorknob, my palm sweating. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The calm of knowing that everything is about to end, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. I turned the knob and pushed the door open. And there they were. In my bed. The bed Liam and I had picked out together. Under the sheets I had bought. My fiancé and my sister. There's no way to describe the scene without it sounding like a cheap soap opera, but it was real. The shock wasn't a scream. It was a silent, gut-wrenching implosion. I didn't say a word. I just looked at them. The way they scrambled, the look of pure, unadulterated panic on Liam's face, the flash of something that looked almost like triumph in Jenna's eyes before she covered it with fake shame. I turned around, walked out of the apartment, got in my car, and drove. I don't even remember the drive. All I remember is ending up on my mom's doorstep, tears streaming down my face, my body shaking so hard I could barely stand. She opened the door, a smile on her face that died when she saw me. "Clara, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I choked out the words. Liam and Jenna, in our bed, together. I expected her to gasp, to hug me, to curse their names. I expected my mother to be my mother. Instead, she just stood there for a long moment, her face unreadable. And then she said the words that would sever our relationship forever. "Oh, honey," she sighed, a deep, weary sigh. Not of shock, but of inconvenience. "Please don't do anything rash. The wedding is tomorrow. All the guests are here. We've paid for everything. Can't we just get through the day and deal with this later? Think of the embarrassment. Think of the embarrassment." At that moment, it wasn't even anger I felt. It was this cold, hollow feeling in my chest. The betrayal from Liam and Jenna was a knife in the back. But this was my own mother, holding the knife, telling me she cared more about what the neighbors would think than the fact that my entire world had just been shattered by the two people I was supposed to be able to trust the most. She knew. Maybe she didn't know the specifics, but she knew something was going on. She had seen the signs, just like I had, and she had chosen to ignore them. To protect Jenna. To protect the image of our perfect family. I looked at her, my mother, and I saw a stranger. I stopped crying. Everything went quiet and still inside me. "Okay, Mom," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You're right. We can't cause a scene." She flooded with relief. "Oh, good. I knew you'd be sensible." I went back to my apartment. Liam was gone. Jenna was gone. There was just a note on the counter. "I'm so sorry. Please call me." I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. I took a shower. And I started to make a new plan. The wedding day was beautiful. A perfect autumn afternoon. The sun was shining, the leaves were golden, it was disgustingly picturesque. Everyone was walking on eggshells around me, treating me like a fragile doll. Liam looked like a man who'd been pardoned from death row, filled with a pathetic, nervous relief. He kept whispering, "I'm so sorry, I love you, we can fix this." I just smiled at him. A big, bright, empty smile. Jenna, my maid of honor, couldn't even look me in the eye. She stood beside me at the altar, her face pale, a perfect picture of guilt. My mom was beaming in the front row, proud of her sensible daughter who had saved the family from embarrassment. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm. He was oblivious to it all, bless his heart. I got to the front, stood across from the man I was supposed to spend my life with, and the ceremony began. It was all a blur. The words washed over me. I was just waiting for my moment. It came. The officiant smiled benevolently at the congregation. If anyone here has any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. A classic line. Usually just a formality. But I took a deep breath, and in the dead silence of the church, I raised my hand. Actually, I said, my voice clear and steady. I do. A collective gasp went through the room. The officiant looked confused. Liam's face went white as a sheet. Clara, what are you doing? He hissed. I turned to face the guests, all our friends and family. I gave the officiant a polite nod and took the microphone from his stand. Hi, everyone, I said, my voice amplified through the church. So sorry to interrupt. But I just feel like you all deserve to know the real reason we're gathered here today. I thought I was here to marry the love of my life. But it turns out I was just the guest of honor at a celebration for two other people. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. You see, yesterday I came home a little early, and I found my fiancé, Liam, in bed with my maid of honor, my very own sister, Jenna. The room erupted. Whispers turned into loud murmurs. I saw Liam's parents' faces, twisted in horror and disgust, turning to stare at Jenna, who looked like she was about to faint. But I wasn't done. I turned my gaze to the front row and looked directly at my mother. Her face was a frozen mask of panic. But you know what the craziest part is? I continued into the mic, the real showstopper. When I ran to my mom, hysterical, she told me to go through with the wedding anyway. Because, and I quote, we should think of the embarrassment. So, I'd like to thank my mother for her invaluable advice. You were right, Mom. This is much less embarrassing. I looked from my mother's ashen face, to Jenna's tear-streaked one, to Liam's, which was a grotesque mixture of rage and shame. So, the wedding's off. But please, I said with a wide, manic smile, feel free to enjoy the shrimp appetizers and the open bar. Liam and Jenna's parents paid a lot for it. Consider it a parting gift. I set the microphone back on its stand with a gentle click. Then I turned around, walked right back up the aisle, and out of the church. I didn't run. I walked. Head held high. Past all the shocked faces, the open mouths, the pointing fingers. And as the heavy church doors swung shut behind me, I felt a sense of freedom I had never experienced in my entire life. I had burned it all to the ground. And it was beautiful. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Nuclear. I got in my car and just drove. I turned my phone off. I checked into a hotel 2 states away and just slept for what felt like a week. When I finally turned my phone back on, it was a war zone. Hundreds of texts, missed calls, voicemails. Some were from friends concerned. Most were from Liam and my mom, alternating between rage-filled tirades and pathetic, begging apologies. I blocked them all. My dad called, confused and heartbroken. He was the only one I talked to. He had no idea about any of it, and he was devastated. He and my mom are still technically married, but from what I hear, their house is more of a Cold War territory now. I never went back to my old apartment. I had a friend pack up my essentials and put the rest in storage. I broke my lease, quit my job, and moved 500 miles away to a city where I knew no one. It was a complete reset. And it was the best thing I ever did. I heard snippets through my dad and a cousin who had taken my side. Liam's family was mortified. They'd always loved me, and they completely cut him off. He and Jenna, now social pariahs with no one else to turn to, ended up moving in together. Not out of love, I imagine, but out of desperation. A toxic little island for two. And then, about 7 months after I blew up my life, I got a call from that same cousin. You're not gonna believe this, she said. Jenna's pregnant. I just laughed. Of course she was. It was the perfect, trashy sequel to our little drama. I felt nothing. It was like hearing about a natural disaster in a country you've never been to. A sad story, but it had nothing to do with me. And that brings us back to my doorstep. To Jenna, standing there, belly full of my ex-fiancé's baby, her life in ruins, looking at me like I was her last hope. Like I was the sensible, reliable sister who would clean up her mess one more time. I looked at her, at the tears running down her cheeks, at the belly that held the final nail in the coffin of my old life. And I felt the last little flicker of connection to her, to them, to that whole mess, just extinguish. Does it have his eyes? I asked again, my voice quiet. She just sobbed, unable to answer. You, him, my mother. You all made your choices, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. You chose to lie. You chose to betray me. You chose to value appearances over people. And this, I gestured to her stomach, is the consequence. He kicked you out, didn't he? It got too real. The fun was over. Now it's just a screaming, expensive, lifelong responsibility. Clara, please, she whispered. I have nowhere to go. That sounds like a you problem, Jenna. Not a me problem, I said. You burned this bridge. You danced on the ashes. Now you want me to build it back for you? No. You made your bed. It was my bed, actually, but you made it yours. Now go lie in it. And with that, I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I just closed it. I leaned against it, listening as her sobs faded and her footsteps retreated down the path. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel vindicated or happy. I just felt quiet. At peace. The storm was finally over. So yeah, that's how I ended up disowning most of my family and starting my life from scratch.